Welcome to Guesstimators, the quiz that gets inside the brilliant and bizarre brains of Britain. I'm Andy Bush, and every week we tackle society's biggest topics, like would you rather be cooked dinner by Kim Jong-un or Vladimir Putin? This week we are delighted to be joined by comedian, podcaster and writer Vittorio Angelone. Vittorio made the switch to stand-up comedy after moving to London to train as a classical musician. Debuting at the Edinburgh Fringe in 2022 with his sellout show Translations. That show also earned him a nomination for Best Newcomer at the prestigious Dave Comedy Awards, and he returned a year later with Who Do You Think You Are? I Am, which went on to become a sold-out tour across the UK, Ireland and Europe. Vittorio also co-hosts the Mike and Vittorio's Guide to Parenting podcast, tackling the current issues facing parents from the unique perspective of not having any children. Vittorio, welcome to Guesstimators.
Thank you for having me.
It's brilliant to have you on. You just said as you arrived, incredibly warmly with your coat and your scarf, that you've spent the weekend playing rugby and football.
Yes, I'm getting back into team sports. I played a full rugby match. I say a full rugby match. We were slightly trouncing them to the point where they gave up 10 minutes early. So it was
really
a 70-minute rugby match.
Wow. I'm always quite scared of rugby. We never used to play it properly at school, but were you worried about getting your teeth broken? Obviously, you're a stand-up comedian. You need to look after your face and your looks, Vittorio.
Yes, more of the concern is like my brain. That's where jokes come from. Thank you for implying that it's just my looks. I would say, there was I think the real worry was when I was a classical musician. I was just dead worried about my hands.
What did you used to play? Or do you still play?
I was a percussionist. I don't really still play anymore at all. I was a percussionist, so anything you hit. So it was all very kind of like fine motor stuff with sticks and...
So have you got a table of different things that you would pick up during the performance, or have you got one instrument?
Yeah, so you're kind of running along the back of an orchestra playing all sorts of things. I've played at the proms and all that.
That's incredible. And forgive my ignorance, because I imagine some people would think classical musicians got to be like a violin or a cello or whatever. So you can still, excel at being a classical musician in the world of percussion.
Yes, I started as a violinist when I was like 8, and then started percussion when I was 11 or 12. And then studied percussion in London. And yeah, so there's a kind of a massive range of you see those videos, I'm trying to think of stuff that's identifiable, of 4-mallet marimba where you have 2 sticks in each hand, kind of playing very virtuosically. I mean, having not done that in, I would say, 9 years, I wouldn't claim to be good at that anymore. But at one point I would have been. And then there's timpani, the kind of 2001: A Space Odyssey, bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
So is it drums?
All the way down to tambourines, triangles.
Right.
Kind of the full spectrum of everything that you hit. You can possibly think of. I play the drum kit a little bit. That wasn't my kind of thing per se. And then lots of hand percussion from all over the world, which is very exciting. Kind of like African drums, Cuban stuff. It's really varied, which is very exciting. And it kind of veers into strange performance art type things, which I sort of lent towards, where you're kind of just hitting yourself quite a lot.
Which is self-flagellation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're, if someone's like a violinist or whatever, they'll have their violin in their room and do practice during the day. When you were doing that, how would you practice, and what would you know what to practice? How does it work?
I used to have timpani in the house, which was a kind of nightmare. Not really for practice, just to bring to gigs, which is awful. That's a real joy of stand-up comedy, is I don't have to bring anything.
Yeah,
it's so good. But sort of when you're studying, you go and practice at the music. So I studied at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, which is just beside the Barbican in London. And you go in and practice for your kind of, up to when you're getting close to exams, it's 7-8 hours a day.
Wow.
Just by yourself in a room, working very, very hard. There's a fun Randy Newman album where he's playing with an orchestra, and at one point he kind of shows some appreciation for the orchestras. I'm aware a lot of these musicians spend a long time by themselves getting very, very good at what they do, much like snipers.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. So that's the kind of very lonely life, and I got at various points got repetitive strain injury in my arms from basically because you can cram for an exam if you're just revising academically, but if I'm just kind of playing the marimba for 8 hours a day, it does physical damage.
You must have incredible motor skills though, right? Are you good at PlayStation? In fact, the latest season 2 of Squid Game, there's a game they've got to play where they chuck dice and they've got to catch them on the back of their hand.
I think I tend to be quite good at that. I'm quite well coordinated. I'm learning to drive right now. I have my second driving lesson ever after this.
And you acing it?
I got into second gear on lesson one.
He's
I'm
pretty
pretty
good.
buzzing about that. But I tend to be quite coordinated because that's a lot of the training is a lot of coordination
Yeah.
stuff. But I don't know how much better it makes me at the Xbox.
Well, we'll see. How are you at quizzing, Vittorio? Before we get going, you a good quizzer?
I love quizzes, and I would
you
say I'm
competitive?
quite good at quiz, and I'm quite competitive. I don't want to claim that I'm very good and then have the worst go ever at this, but I love pub quizzes. I write pub quizzes. I host pub quizzes, and I'm a big quiz guy.
Oh, he's a big quiz guy. Well, I'm very, very excited about this. The main reason we are here is to quiz. So let's get stuck in following a recap on how it all works with Matt Cutler, aka Statman.
Thanks, Bush, and welcome, Vittorio. So we've compiled a group of people from across the UK representing a range of backgrounds, ages and interests. We call them the Guest Nation. You'll hear us reference the Guest Nation quite a lot. We ask them a series of questions to which there's no correct answer. Frankly, quite stupid questions. Your job is to work out what their most common answers were. Simple as that.
So most common.
Most common.
Cool.
So what you think is useful, Bert, is about getting to the minds of the British public.
What do people think?
The
And it's
general
not
public.
specifically listeners of this, is
No.
it?
No,
Okay,
no.
so it's a broad. And when you say the UK, does that include where I'm from?
It does.
Unfortunately.
It does.
He needs to know the details
No,
before he gets
that's
going, what he's getting himself involved with.
That's good. And our listeners are actually playing this quiz as we speak. But now it's you versus Bush. And there'll be 3
Me
rounds.
versus Bush.
You versus...
God, I'm the Taliban.
That's a lovely way of putting it, yeah. I'll get you cornered, then I'll let you off. There's a retro political joke going on there.
That was good.
Thanks very much.
And there'll be 3 rounds and I'll take your answers. So let's get cracking. And this week's Guest Mates quiz is called Paranoia, Piracy and Poached Eggs. So we're going to cover quite a lot of ground here.
Great.
And for round 1 this week, we've asked the British public to subtly challenge the criminal justice system in our country because we asked the Guest Nation to simply name the crime they feel most comfortable committing. So
Wow.
basically, on their day-to-day activities, knowing they're in breach of the law, what do they just not care that they do?
I mean, do you know what the last crime you committed was, Vittorio?
I get really. That's one of my New Year's resolutions for 2025 is to commit more crimes.
Do more crime.
I'm terrible. I'm such an anxious person.
Yeah.
And even for the tiniest little thing, if I'm getting the overground one stop, and I know there's no gates at either side of it, I'm still like, oh, but I should really tap on, shouldn't I? And I've mates who are just putting a bunch of putting champagne through Tesco and clicking carrots. It's
Yeah.
I don't know how, because I try it I think I stole a spoon once when I was 12 and I still feel bad about it.
It's weird, isn't it? You can tell early days whether you're cut out for it. I remember stealing. Do you remember? I don't know if they have it anymore now because I'm a lot older than everyone else here. But they used to have chunks of glass inside Calagas heater fires that you'd have in your nan's house. Do you remember those things?
What century is it?
It's around the 1780s. But you remember, right? Oh my god, I can't believe no one remembers this. You remember if you had an indoor gas heater in your house, right,
Okay.
like a fire, and then what they would do is have lights underneath chunks of different coloured glass, and the lights would rotate, and it would make it look like the fire was going.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember
yeah.
nicking a chunk of that glass from a
wow.
showroom, and it really affected me. I felt like I'd have to go back in the night and put it back. And I think in those early thievery moments, you're dipping your toe in the waters of crime. You know whether you're cut out to be a criminal or not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's not for me, but it's a New Year's resolution. I'm going to keep trying. I've mates who just have never paid for anything in Pret. Especially at airports. I have a mate who loves Mike, who I do the podcast with. He just not to incriminate him on a podcast or whatever, but we talk about it on our podcast. He views pilots as getaway drivers.
Right.
So everything at the airport is just I'm on my way to Berlin, brother. See you later.
Sling your own. Get out of here. Put your foot down. Well, what have we got on this particular topic then?
Well, we might be able to give you some inspiration here about what to do in 2025. I'll ease you in. Question 1. Did more people on the Guest Nation say blackmail or cycling through red lights? What was a more common answer out of those two?
Blackmail.
Blackmail.
It's big. It feels like a big split, spectrum between the two. Depends. I mean, because blackmail itself is probably quite a broad church.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of say, I think people do day-to-day blackmail in their own lives in terms of, I could drop into a conversation about that you said this about that person and unless you let me do this or something. Do you know what I mean? Greasing the gears of day-to-day life. But
Is that illegal?
I don't know.
This is because it's legal blackmail is
That's
a
a
very
good point.
different thing. To
Whereas
kind of-
I think once you find yourself cutting letters out of a daily newspaper to stick onto to try and cover your tracks handwriting wise, that's when you know you're in a different level a little bit.
I think I got blackmailed on the way in.
Oh, really?
So on the way into this beautiful Spotify studios, you have to like sign in on a little iPad thing, and you sign a little NDA. Did I read it? No, I didn't. And then this like iPad takes a picture of you to like log, like classic, like just signing into any office really nowadays. But the iPad's flat on the table, so it's just you looming over this iPad looking the worst you've ever looked. And I like kind of signed the thing being like, oh, I won't tell anyone anything, just like having a bit of crack with the security guard,
Oh, yeah.
It's all good fun. And the security guard goes, yeah, if you do, we release that picture to the public. And I was like, oh, that's blackmail.
It's been blackmailed already.
Yeah.
It's a terrible photo, that. It's a terrible angle for a photo, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like
From above.
the last thing your victims see.
It's a worm's eye view.
Ring doorbell, crime scene photo. Well,
The other one's cycling through the red light, which I've absolutely done like hundreds of times. I used to cycle quite a lot in London when I was a student. There was about 6 months where I cycled and none of my brakes worked.
Okay.
In London, and I would not recommend to the listeners of the Guesstimators podcast, but it was just a real like foot down.
Couldn't stop.
Hope for the best. And I cycled through Bank Junction every single day.
Oh my
and I didn't have any brakes.
Really?
Which is just insane. Which does explain why I was going through red lights.
Have you ever had a fixed gear bike? Have you ever had a fixed gear bike?
I've cycled a friend's one, but that's
Terrifying.
scary.
There's no, basically on the handlebars you don't have any brakes. If you want to slow down, you have to pedal backwards or basically stop the spin of the wheels, and it's a hair-raising experience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I try and adhere to the rules. I cycle every day for work, and I do feel that the rules of cycling have fallen apart since lockdown a little bit. Where people can just cycle the other way down one-way streets and that kind of stuff. But if there's like a left turn coming up and it's on a red light, I'll go. But you do get a lot of people, a lot of motorists will shout at you now if you go through red lights.
Because there's running a red light and then there's running a red light.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's like a little bit of, if it's for a pedestrian.
Yeah.
And you're just, zipping through, it's one thing. But then if you're kind of going through and moving mad, as they say, that's another thing. But, motorists, and as a new motorist myself.
Check it out. Keep an eye out for Vittorio on our roads pretty
I should
soon.
become like unbelievably anti-cyclist now just because I've had one driving lesson. I'm like, those bastards.
Well, out of those two then, a blackmail or cycling through red lights, what are you thinking was kind of said more by the Guestination?
I'm leaning pretty heavily towards cycling through red lights.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I'm wondering why blackmail is in there, unless Statman's put it in there as like some kind of red herring. Yeah, I'm going to go cycling through red lights. There's no way people are saying blackmail.
Okay.
Surely.
I'll take cycling through lights for both of you. Question 2. I simply want you to tell me what was the most common answer, and I'll give you some choices. Was it buying drugs, drink driving, piracy, brackets entertainment, so not on the...
Not on the high seas.
You wouldn't steal a car. That one.
Exactly.
Yes.
Shoplifting or speeding.
It's brilliant that you mentioned that little advert, because that has haunted like generations of people.
Yeah.
The anti-piracy little thing that used to get at the beginning of DVDs.
Yeah. The down. You wouldn't steal a car. You wouldn't steal a bike. Why would you steal a movie?
So good, I love it. Absolutely. But have you ever watched a film where, because that's what they're obviously railing against, people who have gone in and secretly filmed. Is that what it is? Someone who secretly filmed a film in the cinema with like something in their hat?
I think that's the very bottom end of the piracy, because some people, like, there are copies of stuff released to like journalists or critics or whatever, like, and you can just copy DVDs or whatever it is. I'm sure it's on USBs now. God, how the world has moved on.
Hey, let me touch you a bit more about the old fireplaces. That must be a bit younger.
But I feel like I've rattled through. Like, I've seen, I'm of a very specific age where I saw like a lot of technologies as I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one of my brothers who in primary school had a blackboard, then a whiteboard, then an interactive whiteboard within the span of 7 years.
Yeah, it's the progress.
I've done all of the display, utensils or whatever.
That is a very, very good point, actually. So did phones kind of go crazy through loads of changes in your lifetime?
Yeah, so my first phone was was when I was probably 12, and it was like a Nokia 3210 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember being absolutely buzzing to get a Motorola Razr.
Oh, yeah.
They were very good with the Hello Moto.
Yeah. Finish your conversation by flicking it shut, like you're a dealer in the wire or something.
Stuff.
So
And the
good.
worst camera ever. And like I still remember being in class in school, which is a very specific generation, where when you had a Nokia and you were doing like texting on the, press it 4 times for S type thing.
Yeah.
You could text under the table without looking at your phone. So you only had to look at what somebody had sent to you, and then you just go, like, I'm paying attention, and you're just tapping away.
I wonder if push comes to shove, you could tap out a message without even looking now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
go get a Nokia 3210.
I'd love to see that. Okay, Vittorio, could you please type for us? So what are we
Do you want to
thinking?
go through the answers? So the
Yeah.
options are buying drugs, drink driving, piracy (brackets entertainment), shoplifting, or speeding. So one of those is the most common answer.
Well, I've never done any drink driving.
What do we watch one of those who's going to deny?
So why am I struggling so hard to remember all these? Speeding, piracy, drink driving, buying drugs,
Yeah, or shoplifting.
or
Because
shoplifting.
by out of all of those, only denying drink driving, you have left the door open to yourself for buying drugs, piracy, shoplifting, and speeding there, Vittorio.
I'm in a nice position where I've tried a few different drugs, not loads of times. I'm not a very, very druggy person, but I'm never going to get over the social anxiety of buying drugs.
Right.
Like, I will never be able to do that. So I'm mentally and emotionally locked out of addiction.
Right.
Because I just can't talk to strangers.
The awkward chat of buying it is precluded
Like,
you
I
from
could
having it.
be like on crack or whatever, but I would just be like, oh no, don't worry about it. I'm sorry.
Too polite for the addiction.
Yeah. So I think that feels big, especially the way it's been phrased.
Yeah.
Drink driving, like, I mean, if this is a proper span of if we're hitting the countryside, those fuckers are
Yep. Yep.
Buying drugs, piracy, like, are people going to view their like dodgy box or like their fire stick
Watching
as
football,
piracy?
3 p.m. football on a USB type thing.
Or as my uncle calls it, the fire stick.
Sounds magical.
Yeah, and then speeding. I think speeding feels like one that people go,
Yeah.
But
particularly because they've rolled out a load of like super slow areas, I think is why, haven't they? Like 20 miles an hour.
yeah.
So even if you're going 25, you could have been doing quite a bit of speeding. Is there one that you're leaning towards? You'd say that the most common?
I think speeding feels like the one that people is most common, and also the one that people will like own up to or whatever, or like very readily be like, oh yeah, I do that. Speeding, but I'm worried about piracy that might be it.
Yeah, I am going to go piracy just for and I think it's like Vittorio said. I think it's the sneaking of sports.
Who would do that?
Who would do such a thing?
Couldn't believe it.
Outrageous.
Boo.
But Everton were great at the weekend.
Yes. That's not. Yeah.
What time is kickoff?
I'll lend you my stick.
Right. Okay.
Watching with Arabic commentary.
Right. I'm taking speeding for you, Vittorio, and piracy for you, Bush. On piracy, that brings me on to question 3. What was the average age of the people who said piracy? I'll give you like a decade span. So was it people in 10 to 19, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, or people in their 40s, or even people in their 50s? Average age of people who said piracy. So yeah, and that does span from like, watching films to sport.
Yeah.
And maybe even music.
Music
Probably shouldn't say that,
piracy. Really?
Yeah,
Like taking stuff off the radio
in
and
the home
Spotify,
of
here we are.
in the home of paying musicians properly. Like 10 to 19 just feels like they wouldn't even call it. They would call it like streaming, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They would like, so that feels, I've kind of ruled that out in my mind. Piracy, and then the people who are doing the dodgy box thing. I feel like a lot of people in their 20s aren't watching that much kind of TV terrestrially, or like, doing that type of thing. I feel like this is 30s and maybe 40s. feels like more of the piracy generation for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think I'm going to go 50s just because of it's a strange term to call it piracy, but I think Vittorio could be correct here.
I'm going to go 30s.
30s.
Okay. 30s for you, Vittorio. Yeah, the Napster generation.
Yeah.
50s for you, Bush.
I missed that one. Never saw the. Don't know what Napster is. I remember LimeWire though. Like LimeWire is another one of those things that was like so brief, but I remember being terrified of it.
Yeah.
Because my dad was like, "You download a virus on
Download a virus on our home computer.
Okay, great. Last question on this round. So one person on the Guess Nation said, and I quote, "interfering with the train door," which is an interesting phrase.
Oh, like on the tube, or like like when you.
Oh, is that what you think what they're saying here?
Well, you're not like grabbing it by the pussy.
Doing dirty stuff. I bet there is a kink that involves something like that, right? Do you know what I mean?
But anyway, we've actually
Door shagger.
we've got a voice note from this person.
Oh, okay.
Coming up, so
Better behave
hopefully
themselves.
they'll explain what they mean by interfering with the train door. I just love that turn of phrase.
What
But
were they
anyway,
doing with the gap?
Minding it, I guess.
But anyway, on a previous quiz, we also asked this person to say what's the maximum amount of money they'd pick up off the street. Any amount of money above that they'd given to the police. So this was a previous Guess Nation question. I want you to tell me, did this person say 20 quid, 200 quid, 2,000 quid or 20,000 quid? So the threshold of money that they would keep rather than hand in to the police. The person who interferes with train doors.
What's your threshold of money that you would keep? What's the most money you've ever found on the street?
I genuinely don't think I've found anything more than like a £5 note.
Oh, I found 20 once, and I was worried I was going to get stabbed. Like, you know what I mean? I was like,
Rush home. I know this is it. Imagine if you found £200, what would you do? Would you hand it in?
no, that's mine. That's mine. 200's mine. Like I'm debating £2,000.
Yeah.
Like because £2,000 in what? £2,000 in fivers is going to be clumsy to get.
But
done.
I'm still haunted by like we mentioned this last time we talked about this question, but like Shallow Grave, the movie, or what's the Cormac McCarthy book where he finds a load of as a drugs thing has gone wrong and he picks up the bag and he No Country for Old Men. Yeah, so he takes the money thinking it's fine, but it's got a tracker fitted in the bottom of it. You know, these are the things you need to think about. Do you know what I mean? Like £20,000. Someone's going to come looking for that money, Vittorio.
£20,000 is I think £20,000 is off the table for me. I'm like, that is. I don't even know if I'm handing that into the police. I'm just not touching it. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm just going, oh, that's nothing to do with me. I didn't see that. Actually, like, leave me alone.
So this person, the train door interferer, what are you thinking? What would be their threshold?
Their threshold, they're insane. They're they're one of one in this kind of poll. So they're a renegade. I think they're going to draw the line at £2,000. I think they're taking £2,000 home with them.
I'm going to say £200.
200.
I think that the terminology interfering with a train door does sound very kind of like straight down the line. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for 200.
Nice.
I think found money also is like fun money. If I find £200, like I'm going to the pub with mates.
Yeah, it's not going to the bank.
I'm buying all the drinks. Like I'm not investing it. You have to do something fun with it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. This round is done, and the answers are in. So, did more people say blackmail or cycling through red lights? They said cycling through red lights, which you both got right.
Good start.
You both got right. A few people did say blackmail though.
Very weird.
Yeah, and I have all of their data.
And we'll use it against them.
The most common answer was speeding.
Wow, get in there.
2 out of 2 for Vittorio.
Speed. Shout out to all my speed demons. Second gear for life.
And the average age of the people who said piracy were people in their 30s.
Whoa.
I'm
You're
killing
the
it.
max.
It's a hell of a
Whoa.
start.
I'm killing it.
This
I
guy's
understand the British public.
But before I tell you what the train door interferer said about picking money up, here's a voice note from them.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm from Leicestershire, but I live in London now. Interfering with a train door as blocking it. I do it all the time. Very little consequence, whether that's on the tube or on the train. Doesn't really slow the train down that much. The other passengers don't seem to mind generally when I do it. And so, yeah, I have done it. I do it. I'll probably continue to do it. To be honest, I didn't know it was even a crime. If it's anything more serious, then forget everything I just said.
Wow. So what is? Help me out here. So is he? You know, like sometimes if someone leans on the door, it stops the tube train.
Yeah.
And the driver has to come on and say, "Can you stop leaning on the door?"
Yeah,
is that what he means, or is he trying to stop the door from shutting?
He's making a last-minute dart as they're closing, arm through, pry them open again.
So he's a bit of a bit more of a maverick than maybe I gave him credit for.
Which I, as a passenger, do get really annoyed at if I see someone do it, unless they're like, you know, part of a bigger group and they're like about to be separated from their family. I'm
Yes.
like, oh yeah, do whatever. But when it's just someone like it's the tube. There's one in 1 minute. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But we do all get caught up in that. Like, if you see there's a train there, when you like come to the bottom of the stairs, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Even if you're in like the least rush imaginable, if you're trying to delay your journey, like we all just turn into children because we go like, the doors. How do we like Indiana Jones?
It's weird. They've studied. They've put in Euston Square, where I get the tube. They've put like a mirror on the corner of the stairs.
Oh, I love that.
It's like that's going to make me start running from higher up.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
jumping the last 5 steps of the stairs, sliding down the banister.
Exactly. Like school's out for the summer. So I'm intrigued as to the threshold for this person.
Charlie's threshold was 200. Bushy
I got a little consolation point at the end there.
Consolation.
What a maverick of a guy he is.
Yeah, we need to hear more from Charlie.
He's
think, in the
all
future.
over the place.
He is. Very inconsistent man.
I wonder if he's doing it for other people. You know, if there's somebody
Yeah.
else running for the train,
Yeah.
then he's like
Yeah, he's some kind of
stopping
martyr.
that for someone else.
Yeah.
Robin Hood of train doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's giving the £200 to charity. You know,
Charlie, get back in touch. We're obsessed with you.
We'll
Obsessed.
find out. End of round 1, Vittorio, you're on a 3 out of 4. That's a pretty good start. Bush, you're on a 2, so it's still all to play for.
Before we get into round 2, if you're listening and didn't play this quiz, make sure you sign up at guesstimators.com. Every Monday, the quiz lands in your email inbox, and you've got until 6 p.m. on Wednesday to tackle it. This podcast right here is the first place to hear the answers and whether you top the weekly leaderboard. And if you're enjoying the show, please give us a rating and a review. It really helps us to spread the word. Welcome back. What have you got in store for us in round 2, Statman Matt?
In round 2 this week, round 2 this week is about as guesstimators as it gets because we asked the Guest Nation to rank the following cooked eggs from best to worst.
Oh, let's find out, Vittorio, straight away your view of eggs.
I'm on an egg journey.
Wow.
This was one of my resolutions for 2024.
Egg journey.
I wanted to teach myself to like eggs because I've hated eggs since I was but a boy.
Was there an incident that started you disliking eggs? Do you
No,
remember?
I just make strange decisions about stuff like this when I'm young and kind of I'm very stubborn about it. On the waiting list to be diagnosed with autism, but wrote off eggs from birth, basically.
And this is ruling out stuff like pancakes or
Pancakes all
omelettes?
good, cakes all good, omelets no,
Right.
French toast great.
Wow, okay.
So this is why it just doesn't make any sense. And egg fried rice generally fine. Egg fried rice was the first hurdle that I set myself of like, okay, this is an easy one.
Yeah.
It doesn't really taste like eggs. It's just kind of in there as a bit of filler. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I would do that. Next hurdle was quiche.
Yeah.
Quiche because there's so much other stuff going on that it's not very eggy. Like you get a lot of cheese, a lot of bacon, the pastry, the whole thing.
There's quite an egg vibe to it though, right? So,
But I didn't even know what egg tasted like, so I was making all of this up. I was like, that's not very eggy. I think I have an imagined egginess that is just sulfur. Like it just didn't taste like farts. And I was like, great, sounds good to me. So then quiche. And
so
then
you've overcome quiche, right?
I've overcome quiche. Yeah.
Congratulations.
That was one of the first to go. That was early on. And then omelette, I think with like a good bit of other stuff. That was pretty good. And then the next one was like overcooked scrambled eggs.
Right.
Because my concern about eggs was like the gooey runniness was a worry for me, and the like eggy flavoriness was. So those are were my two issues. Overcooked scrambled eggs doesn't really have it's egg fried rice without the rice, basically. Like
So I do my scrambled egg in the microwave, so you don't get the runny thing.
Listen, I'm new to eggs, and I think that's horrific.
What's not to love about it? It's great. It gets them done in a minute and a half. You don't have to do loads of washing up.
I love it's good. Anyway, so now I've moved on to like cooking scrambled eggs like a normal person and not like obliterating them. So they've got like a little bit of runniness to them, good fun. And I've recently made the step onto fried eggs. But there always has to be like other stuff going on with the fried eggs. I'm yet to have like I don't know if you're supposed to have a fried egg by itself. It's kind of weird, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't and haven't.
Yeah.
I'm yet to do a poached because that has maximum runniness.
Yeah.
And then soft boiled has runniness and a lot of egginess. And then hard boiled, I believe, to be the eggiest of eggs. That feels like the most eggy tasting egg.
The egg spectrum we've gone through.
Exactly.
Here. Yeah.
So that's my egg spectrum of egginess that I've worked through. So I'm on fried eggs at the minute. I don't know if I'll ever graduate past a fried egg to a poached egg or a boiled egg.
You've done really well so far.
But I have
though.
scrambled eggs every day. So this is how I trained myself to eat eggs. I had scrambled eggs every morning for breakfast and nearly threw up for about 3 months.
Wow. You really pushed through, didn't you? I love that. Got over the hump with it.
So this is like the egg ladder. Have you heard about the egg ladder for allergies? If you're like a little bit allergic to egg, so my son is a little bit allergic to egg, and so we put him on a like NHS egg ladder, where like every week
It's
we
like a
would give him
competitive sport.
basically what you just described,
Wow.
like a bit more egg, until he combated his fear of eggs and his like allergy to eggs.
Yeah, 'cause in our local leisure centre, they've got a badminton ladder, but you just place someone above you. Is there any way of incorporating
basically,
a Jeopardy
yeah.
into
It's like
the
that.
egg ladder?
Probably.
So where he's
completed it.
He's cracked it.
Yeah, cracked it.
Good use of phrase as well
Yeah.
there. Yes! If you are on an egg ladder and you're struggling with the egg thing like Vittorio, do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Have you been affected by any of the issues, Rick?
There's people standing by at the end of the podcast to take your call. So here's with the question on this stuff.
Yeah. So we asked the guests. We gave them 5 options for cooked eggs.
One of these in here, Vittorio hasn't mentioned, so this will be
No,
interesting.
yeah, I know. So we gave them boiled eggs. So that incorporates both soft and hard boiled. Fried, as you mentioned. Poached. Scotch we threw into the mix as a bit of a left field one.
Never done that because it feels very eggy to me. Because it's a hard boiled inside
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
else.
Well, if you get a good one, though, in a restaurant, it should still be soft in the middle, though, right? Shouldn't?
That's even scarier.
That's even scarier. Okay.
And scrambled. So basically, we gave the guest nation those 5 answers. We asked them to rank them from best to worst. Questions 1 and 2 on this round. I'll give you them together. What was the most common answer for best? What was the second most common answer for best? And if you give 1 in the wrong position, I'll give you a half point.
So we just need to identify 1 and 2.
Most common and second most common.
Most
Correct.
common and
Best
second
egg
most common.
type.
Yeah.
Because I think people love a really good poached egg. I think that really I think people would argue that because I think scrambled eggs is like very safe. It's like you can only fuck it up so much. Whereas
Yeah.
I think a poached egg can go quite wrong, is quite tricky. But when it's nailed, people really buzz off that kind of M&S food moment of the yolk coming out in slow motion.
Yeah.
They get very excited about that. Again, I just don't think Scotch egg is. I think Scotch egg could maybe slide in at number 2, but I'm thinking poached for the top one. But I'm not. But I'm. This isn't.
You're
my,
new to this
isn't
thing.
my realm.
Yeah. He's an egg tourist in many ways. So number 1, poached. I'll go fried for number 1, just because
Fried.
the enduring fried egg sandwich type thing that you hear in cafes and stuff. I think it might still have the top spot there. What are you thinking for the second place, Vittorio?
Second place, I think Scotch egg, but it's a vote. I think Scotch egg is like pretty inoffensive, so I think like lots of people would just like, and it let you go to the pub during COVID as well. Do you remember? To get a Scotch egg up to have a pint.
Ridiculous.
Like I'm not one of these conspiracy peoples, but some moments were mad during the pandemic. weren't they?
I was with my in-laws in the pandemic, and one thing that we did was, my mother-in-law, she put the newspaper in the oven.
What?
That was like completely normal for a
Wow.
week.
To like sanitize it.
Yeah, to kill the germs.
Wow. In the
That's
oven.
amazing.
Bobby.
But we were like spraying and wiping all parcels and all food that came in. It
Yeah,
was just,
people leaving
like,
their shopping in the porch for a couple of hours to let
Yeah.
the germs crawl off it or whatever. Very weird. I don't think we've properly processed lockdown yet, have we? We're not far enough away from it.
Here's my problem with all of it is, do you remember during it when we were all like, God, we're going to be talking about this for years. Like really, we are like, this is such a defining moment of our like lives. We're going to be talking about this forever. And now if you try to bring it like the pandemic up, everyone's like, would you shut up? None of us want to talk about that ever again. Like we're all just like, no, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Like it's strange. We've all just repressed the
Yeah,
memories.
it's going to bubble up again at some point anyway. Yeah, I agree with Vittorio. I'm going to go Scotch egg. It's just has a special place in the nation's heart, I think.
Okay, nice. I'm taking fried and Scotch in that order for you, Bush. Poached and Scotch for you, Vittorio. Last question on this round. I want you to simply tell me what was the most common answer for the worst, i.e. what was ranked? Yeah, the lowest out of all of them.
The most rank.
The most
In
ranked
rank.
of all the eggs. I think a boiled egg is going to be at the bottom. I think it just has like connotations of somebody else eating it on a train.
Yes.
You know,
100%.
so I think it just, whereas the other ones don't really spark like a disgust. There's no like negative associations with them unless you're fucked in the head like I am. But I think the boiled egg has, while it still has the nice kind of toast soldiers thing for lots of people with the like soft boiled egg, I think a hard boiled egg just conjures up a lot of like, you know?
Yeah. I think if you eat one of those, bring one of those into work and eat it, they'll put you in a headlock.
Yes. Yeah.
You get a bad reaction.
First up against the wall.
I agree, 100%.
Fine, so you're both getting bored. Okay, great.
Yep.
Smash through that round. Okay. So the answers are in. I can tell you the second most common answer for the best was scrambled.
See, I was worried about scrambled because, like I said, it's just a safe and easy bet. Was it clarified whether it was the eating of them or the cooking of them? Because I think people would like if they're the one cooking it, they'd go for scrambled because it's just kind of very easy.
Vittorio wants a VAR on that egg decision there.
It was up to their interpretation.
Stop the
It was
count.
It was never clarified.
Yeah, just
So
what's
it's
the
one of
best
those.
egg?
Just microwave it, guys.
I know.
I would argue Easter or Fabergé. But you said cooked. So.
But the most common answer for best was poached. I think your rationale was good on that.
Get in
Yeah,
there,
the
well
peak
done.
of a poached is very high. Yeah.
But I can tell you the most common answer for worst was actually Scotch.
Wow.
I have a theory on this. I think it's because it's got meat wrapped around it.
Vegetarians.
So the vegetarian,
You lose
people
a
on
whole
that.
class of
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, there's a significant proportion.
But
of
there's
that.
an element of magic involved in it. I still don't know how they do it. It's a shame that people are putting that as their worst.
They are great.
What do you
Come on,
mean you
Destination.
don't know how they do it?
How do they get it to still be soft in the middle, but there's a cooked?
Like the really nice ones. Because I
Yeah.
was going to say the hard-boiled one is fairly self-explanatory. But
There's
yes,
not a lot of magic going on there.
I guess you maybe cook it, like undercook a soft-boiled egg,
Right.
and then meat it and bread it, and then in the deep frying process.
Is that what you do?
Do you fry
know.
it,
I'm
or
not
does it just
sure.
get like breaded?
They deep fry it, I think, don't they?
Is there a frozen element to it? I wonder if they're freezing the egg.
Like they do for the
So IVF.
like
Oh, that's ruined Scotch eggs for me now.
like they do for when it's what's it called when a dessert has like
Oh, I know what you mean.
a liquid center to it.
Oh yeah, like
Fondue.
Fondant.
Fondant. Like
No.
there's a word, but
Yeah, I
they
know what you
basically
mean.
they freeze a chocolate ball in the middle of the uncooked kind of like cake mix, and
Yeah.
then in the cooking process it melts and the cake cooks.
But you can't have a frozen. Well, I guess you could have a frozen soft boiled egg, but that's kind of weird to reanimate that, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's kind of.
But
Jurassic
is it just
Park.
but is it a frozen uncooked egg?
Well, yeah, I think it might be.
And do you know if you, and this is all part of my egg journey, you know if you shake an egg before you crack it, the yolk is in the middle? Do you know the way sometimes you crack an egg if you're like frying it and the yolk is all like
Way.
off to one side?
Oh, well, you can make the yolk
right?
more. Hold on a
Give
minute.
the egg a good shake.
Vittorio's on an egg journey, and now he's giving us egg advice. This is incredible.
Well, it's like new converts to a religion. I'm doing much more of the reading. You're passively involved with eggs. I'm an active member of the egg community.
Diligently reading on the tube, the egg Bible. That's incredible. Well, there you are. I didn't know
There
that.
you go. Anyway, end of this round. Vittorio, you got one on that. Bushy bageled, unfortunately. But that means going into round 3. Vittorio, you're on a 4. Bush, you're on a 2.
All to play for. Vittorio, before we get back into the quiz, tell us a little about the Michael McIntyre situation that happened to you when you were performing live.
My goodness.
That made
I
the
was-
papers.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
What made the? Oh, when I slagged them off. There's two different things. I have a joke about Michael McIntyre in my tour show that I've just kind of finished doing. Who do you think you are? I am. I'm so sorry that you had to read that out. I always feel bad for anyone that has to read out that insane show title. It's just too long and hard to say, but it's a funny show. And there's basically a joke because the theme of the show is about how this bowler in America is my hero, bowler called Pete Weber.
Bowler is in, but like
10-pin bowling.
10-pin bowling, right.
And he has a very famous video, which I thought was very famous, but it turns out about 9 people. This is why I might be bad at this game, actually. From touring the show, I found out that very few people have seen this video that I named my show after.
Right.
He scores a strike to win a tournament and gets so excited that he screams at the crowd, "Yes, God damn it, that's right, I did it. Who do you think you are? I am." And it's the best thing ever. And he's a lunatic. And I love him. And he follows me on Instagram now. And I'm so buzzing about that.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Because I tag him in every post.
He's sick of it.
And yeah, so I talk about that, and I talk about how I'm not a relatable comedian. Like, I'm not doing the, cupboards are mad or whatever. And I do it.
After chatting to you about eggs for a bit, yeah, we get that.
Yeah, I'm not a normal man. So I have a bit about, like, you're not here to see Michael McIntyre. And I just do a little impression of, like, ooh, men keep things in drawers. And I'm like, shut up. But then and then the fucking reviews always fuck me over. They always, like, quote a bit out of context. I got listed in the Independent's, like, top jokes of the Fringe in 2022 for my debut show, and the joke was basically that, like, the vague premise of the joke was zoos are the only place. Like, I look at the, like, lion, and you're like, oh, that's, like, you shouldn't be here. You should be back, like, roaming the plains of Africa. You shouldn't be in a cage. That's really sad. And the joke was that zoos are the only place that you're allowed to say, go back to Africa. Like, it's the only place you're allowed to be anti-immigration is at the zoo. And the joke that the Independent took, the only line they took from the whole like 3 or 4 minute routine was zoos are the only place you're allowed to be anti-immigration. That's it. That's the whole line. And I'm just in a newspaper now and I look insane. But then this newspaper was like, he had the balls to slag off Michael McIntyre or something. But then I was on a gig with him this week. I showed up to just try some new material at Top Secret Comedy Club, not far from here actually. And I was like, oh, who's on before me? And they were like, oh, Michael McIntyre's doing an unannounced set.
Why was he doing an unannounced set?
So often these very famous acts will come down and like try out brand new material in front of a smaller crowd. But I heard a rumor that what it actually was is he hadn't gigged in a while and had a big corporate coming up.
Right.
So he wasn't even running through new stuff. He was just absolutely hammering tried and tested gold before I was going up being like, I've got this new bit about custard creams.
Did you meet him beforehand? Was he friendly? And
no,
stuff like?
He came in a different door, left through a different door. He didn't talk to any of us. I just had to walk on to the MC being like, did you enjoy Michael McIntyre? This next guy's got a great podcast, and brought me onto that. And I was like, God, this is just unwinnable, isn't it? So I just slagged off Michael McIntyre the whole time. Because I'm a little bit dark. I talk about some contentious topics. And anytime I did that, I was like, yeah, we're not talking about Fitbits now.
Vittorio, tell us where can people see you live? You're doing work in progress at the moment, right?
Yes, so I have work in progress shows kind of around the place. Most of the dates will be posted on my Instagram. And I would say, like, I'm always supposed to be like, go to my website, but my website is run by me. Right. I just so rarely put the dates on there. But the best way to find out about like actually good tour shows and all that stuff is to sign up to my mailing list, which you can get on any of my social medias or my website, VittorioAngelone.com, best of luck spelling it. And so I send out like literally one email a month, if even, just being like, here's where I'm going to be, here's where the tour shows are. And then my new show, You Can't Say Nothing Anymore, will be at the Edinburgh Fringe all of August, and then on tour at some point, I imagine, unless I get cancelled off the back of the Guesstimators podcast.
Watch this space. Well, it's time for our final round. What do you have for us, Statman Matt?
For the final round this week, we're going to be seeing how nervous the British public are when they go about their daily lives, because we asked the Guest Nation to estimate how many times they've ever thought, and I quote, I could die here.
Ooh. Have you had any kind of life flash before your eyes moments, Vittorio, recently?
I never stand at the edge of a tube platform.
Oh, right, well, in case someone gives you a shove. Yeah.
Or if I do, I am in like, I'm in like scrum position, like I'm set.
If I do that, this is a good point, because there was a period of like a bit of like horrible things where people were getting pushed off platforms, particularly on like nights out and everything. I always stand sideways to the tube. I think it's the better. Isn't that? I'm sure someone told me the better way to be.
Of course, because your weight is more likely to go forwards or backwards than side to side.
But that is catastrophizing, I guess, on a daily basis, isn't it?
Yeah,
preparing
horrific.
for that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the only, to have any actual like proper near-death things. There was a moment in school where I was at the top of a staircase and my friend Finn like jokingly pushed me and I just like tripped over my own leg as it like just caught me at a weird angle. And I was like, about to go down a full flight of stairs, and Finn grabbed my thigh and like pulled me back at the very top of the staircase.
Wow.
So he sort of nearly killed me and then saved my life. So me and Finn are quits at this point.
Well, yeah. What do we got on this, Statman?
For question 1, I want you to tell me, were most answers single figures, double figures, triple figures, or quadruple figures? We asked the guest nation, how many times have they ever thought I could die here?
Wow.
Single figures, double, triple, quadruple figures. I mean, I think I'm a very anxious person, but I think that like I'm easy. I'm triple figures a day. Like every day, 100 times I go, oh, this could be it. Like,
This could be curtains.
you know, like I just think. Do you not think that you're going to die all the time?
Man, I'm scared of dying, and I'm always panicking about it. But I don't. I guess the difference is with this is like, are you like thinking, fantasizing? Not to you. That's kind of the wrong word. About every day is full of dangers, or is it a moment where, oh my god, if I'd have stepped there, that would have killed me? Or do you know what I mean, like
An actual near miss.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's a big spectrum of people who probably don't think about it, and people who are on a flight for 10 hours, absolutely shitting themselves.
See, bizarrely, flights I am absolutely fine.
Really?
Like completely grand or whatever. Like
Have you done many ferries and stuff over from Belfast over to England? Have you ever
rare, like when I was younger, yeah, but I fly back and forth from Belfast to London. Like I'm fucking Taylor Swift, man. I'm all over it. Well, just because like every holiday during uni, I would go back and visit my parents and every whatever, and like, yeah, so I'm like zipping back and forth on. So I guess I fly more than like the average person, so it's just very kind of mundane for me. Really? Also, I like don't remember 9/11, so which is kind of a mad like that's just another one of my little age ranges.
So if
where,
you
like,
were what, like little when that happened?
I was
or-
5,
Yeah.
so I just have no memory. Like even people slightly older than me remember like in school like a TV being wheeled in and then watching the news, which seems mad. Like
Wheeled in.
I remember TVs being wheeled in as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Do you know what I remember? The overhead projector with the see-through pages
Yeah.
and the bits. I think I want one of those in my house. I think
That was
they're
great.
great.
Having a gob on the paper and rub it to the
Yeah,
see-through stuff to make an amendment. So in terms of people panicking, in terms of getting in touch with Guestimation, I think it's single figures, double figures, triple figures, quadruple figures.
Most answers, yeah.
So this is how often?
Across the whole spectrum of the answers, what range were most of the answers in?
As in, no, but in what how over what time span? How many times are they thinking? Oh my! Just their whole lives.
Ever.
It's gotta be at least. I know I'm mad, but it's gotta be at least triple figures. It's gotta be. Who are these people living like just? Oh, I'm fine. I'll live forever. You're fools. I think it's gotta be triple figures, and that's me underestimating.
Wow. I see. I reckon single figures.
You're mad. What?
We're about to learn a very interesting thing
I
about the
love
British
it.
public here. Yeah, I think in terms of thinking though, you nearly died. You nearly died. That's what we're asking here, right?
Is it nearly died or I could have died?
It was specifically, I could die here.
I could die. So this is in advance. This isn't, oh, I've just nearly been hit by a bus, which happens to me twice a week. But this is like, I could die here. I could die here. That could fall. That could fall.
He could die right now. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll take. Okay, I'm going to take single for you, Bush, and triple for you, Vittorio.
Right.
Question 2.
High stakes.
Question 2. Who on average said more, under 30s or over 60s? So this is basically who's more anxious, kids or the olders.
Under 30s.
Yeah.
Under 30s are more anxious. Over 60s, they don't believe, they just push it all down.
Yeah.
Over 60s don't believe in emotions. And my favorite thing about over 60s in England particularly, they all act like they lived through the Blitz. You weren't born. What are you doing? Like none of you were actually here. And they're like, oh well, in my generation we lived through. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Shut up about it.
Just bottle it up if you're over 60. Yeah, I agree. Under 30, 100%.
That feels like a very, because they make fun of us so much for being very, very anxious.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I'll take under 30s for both of you. Last question before the tiebreaker. There were 2 most common answers. They were basically tied. So the top answer, there was two of them. Name either of them.
Of like,
Most common answer.
What do you mean though? Like a number of times? Ooh.
that they think, Does it have to be within my previously guessed?
You have to get it
'Cause,
bang
like,
on.
But does it have to be within my previously
Nope.
guessed triple figures,
No,
so
no,
I
no.
can kind of hedge
Say
my
whatever you
bets and go in either direction, or I can back myself?
This is it.
This is the jeopardy of guesstimators.
But people say round numbers. This is my thinking. People say round numbers are numbers that they like. They're not going to say 428.
Okay.
You know, they're not
Okay.
going to, unless like there will be one guy with OCD who's going, I've thought about dying exactly 428 times.
Yeah.
I think that people will say 200.
200.
200.
Around 200, yeah.
Bush, what you saying?
Ooh, I'm gonna go 400. I agree, it's a round number. They're gonna say 400.
But you've hedged your bets from because you said single.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go the
You should
other
be
side.
saying 6.
Actually, all right then, Vittorio. Let's do it. I will go 6.
6.
I'm gonna go 6.
Okay, 6.
Yes, high stakes.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
He's egged me on. Thanks
Thanks
very much.
This is great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys.
And tiebreak answer. There's a good chance we'll need it. What was the highest someone said on the Guestination?
2,000. 2,000, because I think I would say that.
3,000. 3,000 times they've nearly died.
Okay.
This will be a very interesting round here.
I'm so intrigued. This is a great podcast.
Right. Answers are in. Well, most common answers, single figures, double figures, or triple figures, or quadruple figures. They're actually single figures. The most answers were single figures.
Idiots.
You got that bang on, Bush.
Oh my God, imagine if 6 turns out to be right. This is going to be
Oh, wow.
Who said more, under 30s or over 60s? Under 30s. Actually, very, very clearly under 30s.
Yes, 100%.
Which you both got right. Most common answer, there were two of them. One of the most common answers was 0.
Who are these people? What? Never! You've never thought I could die here? What life do you live?
Amazing, isn't it?
Can't believe
We
it.
lived through a pandemic. What are we talking about? There's thousands of cars on the street every single day. You don't think one of them could be mad?
What a life that must be, though, to not even worry about it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, to the bliss of being an idiot.
But the second, the other most common answer was 5. You were one off me.
very
Close. That would have been incredible.
But get this: the highest someone said was 150,000.
What? 150,000? I was about to be so angry that they said 150 was the high. 150,000.
150,000, which is more in your.
They have-
like every day.
Even I think that's a problem.
Yeah, if Vittorio thinks you worry too much, then you do have
Yeah.
But what that means, Bush, you got 2 on that round. Vittorio, you got a 1, but it was enough to take it on this week's quiz. You win by 5
Well done,
to
man.
4.
That
That's a
was-
good score.
What a finale.
That is a good score, and you are the recipient of a limited edition
Egg.
Guesstimator's egg timer.
Oh, it's a mug.
Look at that.
Lovely. Unbelievable. I don't drink tea or coffee. That's next on my list of things that I think a grown up should eat. But I drink Coke Zero out of a mug every day because I like the aesthetic of
Psychopath.
of a mug.
Absolute psychopath.
It's crazy. But when you do it in a cafe, first the barista people hate you because you're like, can I have a Diet Coke in a mug? And they go, what? And then you pour it in and bin the Diet Coke can. Looks like you're drinking a black coffee. You look very cool.
Blending in with normal people. I love that. What a thriller that was. That would be first on Match of the Day, this quiz this week, wouldn't it? It really would be. Well, listen, thank you for listening. Thank you to our celebrity guest, the brilliant Vittorio Angelone. Make sure you listen right to the end of this podcast to hear Statman Matt reveal who topped the leaderboard this week. It could be you. And we love hearing from you. So please let us know how you did on social and with a voice note. As ever, the voice note number is 07457 404 279. You've been listening to Guesstimators, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, Guesstimators. It is Statman Matt here, bringing you what you want to know: who won the Guesstimators quiz this week. I can tell you the average score was a 4.5, which I think was the same as last week and maybe even the week before. So you're being very consistent in your scores, which is good to see. But it required a 9 to win it this week, and one person got a 9. One person got a 9, and one person got an 8.5. But Alan Spence, you are our winner this week at the top of the leaderboard. Only got one question wrong. Alan, I'm sure won't mind me saying he's been playing for a year and he got a 2 last week. So all the people on social media are saying, oh, I've got a rubbish score this week, I'm going to give up. don't give up, because you never know. Monday is a new day. You never know what can happen in Guesstimators. So Alan, the only question Alan got wrong was question 2, when he put piracy instead of speeding. Other than that, an absolutely brilliant set of answers, Alan. I will be in touch with you soon to get your Guesstimators prize to you. Thank you for playing. Thank you for listening. And we will see you next on Monday's bonus round.